Hey everyone, my name is Ajay Tucker, here joined by my guest and collaborator on this podcast, Nathan Long. We are here to discuss and continue the trilogy of Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. We reviewed Spider-Man last time and talked about it in detail, but I kind of felt as if it was necessary to also have Spider-Man 2 to be reviewed as well. If you've noticed on the pod channel, or just on the channel, I deleted all my former podcast episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm putting in a lot of stock on this.
Hell yeah.
Let's put in a little stock in this. So let's put a little bit of a wager into this. Let's make sure that we can focus on this. So hopefully. But yeah, we discussed Spider-Man last week. And this week, in honor of continuing the Spider-Man tradition, we watched Spider-Man 2, 2004. Now, obviously, we're not going to review the Mark Webb films.
I don't want to.
I don't want to either.
I don't want to do that.
I mean, we don't hate the films per se. We just find them to be off. That's putting it lightly.
The first one is meh. The second one, I actually do kind of hate. I think it's very not good.
If you think Spider-Man 3 was incohesive and jumbled and scrambled all together, wait till you watch TASM 2, 2014. TASM 2. So that is that. But we are here to discuss Spider-Man 2, which obviously heading into Spider-Man 2, following the fanfare of Spider-Man 2002, there was a lot of anticipation for this movie. Obviously, we were 5 years old.
Yeah,
when this movie, so we don't really recall the hype for this movie as say like. The Force Awakens, where we have more of a vivid picture in memory as to like the anticipation for that movie because we were in high school back then. But there was a lot of anticipation heading into this movie, and it's fair to say that it held up to people's standards.
Absolutely.
Now, we recently watched this movie for this sit down, and how did you feel about this movie? How do you feel about Spider-Man 2?
Spider-Man 2, like, what was it, 2004? So
before you give your thoughts, explain Spider-Man 2 to those who haven't watched it.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched Spider-Man 2 in the 20 years it's existed, it picks up right where the last film leaves off. Peter Parker has now fully embraced his role as Spider-Man. He's let it taken over his life. He is Spider-Man 24/7 now. His world as Peter Parker has kind of taken a back seat, and tragedy strikes when a new villain, Dr. Otto Octavius, arrives on the scene, and now Peter Parker has to jumble his life as Peter Parker, his life as Spider-Man, and this new villain. There is drama, there is action, and as for my thoughts on this movie, it holds up incredibly well. It is, I'm going to say it, I think it's just one of the best movies ever made, best comic book movies ever made. I don't care if that's like hyperbolic.
I thought you saying cinema was cringe-inducing. This might take the cake.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
We love Spider-Man 2. Cringe machine, baby.
I love Spider-Man 2 as well. But what we're saying, continue on.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it holds up. People have a lot of reverence for this film, and after watching it literally just last night, it's very apparent why it's the perfect sequel, where it takes everything that worked about the previous movie and just doubles it. It adds on more character, more emotion. The action is leagues better. The direction is just Sam Raimi flexing his muscles. There's so many classic scenes and so many iconic moments packed into this movie. It's hard not to love it.
Yeah, I love this film a lot. It's definitely one of my favorite superhero films. Honestly, it's my favorite superhero film of all time.
Yeah.
I love The Dark Knight. Logan is also really good. But in terms of superhero films, this one takes the cake for me.
Yeah, no, this is like the first like major like big superhero movie success.
Yes, absolutely. And part of the reason as to why this film resonates so much with me is because this is not a film about Spider-Man. I feel like this is the first time where we saw a look of the guy behind the mask in ways that an origin story could easily do, but I feel like this even more so. When you see this film, there's very few scenes of Spider-Man. If you watch this on repeat or reback, or if you watch it on playback, there are very few scenes involving Spider-Man.
Yeah.
a lot of this film deconstructs Peter Parker at his lowest of low, where he can't pay rent on time, where he's constantly in and out of jobs, where Aunt May is, on the brink of foreclosing her own home. All of these issues, struggles, are things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, but to see it presented on the big screen is something that very few directors can really do that well, and I think Sam Raimi did a great job at that, as well as the writers behind this film as well. But yeah, I love this film a lot. It's great. Let's just get right into the movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to break down, scene by scene in this film. So, we did that for the last.
Yeah. We said last time we said we're not going to go scene by scene, and then we proceeded to go scene by scene for an hour and 20 minutes.
Which, again, I'm sure there are fans that like that. We love it. We would love to talk about Spider-Man for hours on end, but there's an editor behind this video, and it's me. So
it's him.
It's going to be tough. But anyways, let's just get right into the Act 1 of this entire film. Yeah. Before I get into the Act 1, I do want to say the studio behind Spider-Man 2, Sony Pictures, didn't want Tobey Maguire in this film. Do you know about this?
Really?
Yes.
Even after he was our Spider-Man in the first movie?
Yes.
Really?
And the reason behind it was because during this time, Tobey Maguire filmed Seabiscuit. And he was rather frail. He wasn't bulky enough to look the part of Spider-Man, because obviously when you think about Spider-Man, you think of, a Batman-sized figure. That's what you think of, when you think about Peter Parker. You think of him being jacked and, being a billionaire.
Like a 6'4", muscle-bound Chad.
Yeah.
That's Spider-Man.
Yeah. So Sony was looking at Tobey Maguire and was like, okay, this guy shouldn't really be playing Peter Parker. So they were actually thinking about casting Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie. But to Tobey Maguire's credit, he got in shape.
Yeah.
He got in shape, eating the right meals, chicken, workout, really doing it, the natural way.
Yeah.
And he was able to play Peter Parker in this film. So that's a little bit of an interesting story as to how that sort of came about. And to Jake Gyllenhaal's credit, he did star in a Spider-Man film later on.
He did.
Far From Home or No Way Home.
One of those.
Whatever. They all sound the same. Like Marvel, MCU, stop naming your movies so similarly to one another. It's hard for us to differentiate between the two, But anyways, that I thought was an interesting tidbit to know about it.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's get into Act 1 of this film. So Peter is at the worst part of his life. Fired by Joe's Pizza, grades are slipping. Dr. Kirk Connors has a pretty emotional scene with him where he mentions that to him. He can't cover his advances at the Daily Bugle. Yeah. Aunt May's home getting foreclosed on. Some things that we already mentioned already.
He's so busy and swamped with everything in his life to the point where he forgets his own birthday. Which is that's the biggest slap in the face when he comes home. He's like, why are we having a party? And they're like, it's your birthday, Peter.
Yeah, one of the worst days of his life, and it's we have a hard cut to him at Aunt May's home, and he walks in, and it's all of his two friends and Aunt May being happy birthday, and it's oh damn, this horrendous day happened on the date of his birth.
Yeah, oof, it's
and it really takes a toll. But yeah, and one of the things that I really liked about Spider-Man 2, obviously we mentioned James Franco in the first film.
Oh yeah.
In our first review, but I think in this film he does a pretty good job.
No, he really does. I do like the character of Harry Osborn, especially in this movie, how he's no longer kind of in the first Spider-Man, he was just kind of reluctant to take on this position that his father had. He still kind of wanted to be a goodish kind of guy and just a normal kid, but now he's kind of taken over the role of almost this very almost cruel CEO. He's slowly kind of building towards that.
And I think James Franco, to his credit, did pretty good in this film.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you think about James Franco, you don't think about a drama actor. I don't think he's ever really done well in that space, besides this film and 127 Hours.
Yeah.
You think more of him in comedic roles, like The Interview, which I love. I love The Interview. It's such a good film. He does a great job as Dave Skylark.
Or, when I say things about gay people, or people think that my lyrics are homophobic, it's because I'm gay. When I rap about violence or, sound like I'm promoting. But yeah, actually, Hector was a real person.
Hector and his rectum were real.
Even The Disaster Artist, which I watched recently as well, really good film. But I think to his credit, he did really well in terms of showing the human side of Harry Osborn. And I think he's easily the best depiction of Harry Osborn in the entire sort of movies that Harry Osborn has been in.
Yeah,
better than Dane DeHaan by a mile.
Easily.
And that's not Dane DeHaan's fault, by the way.
That's that movie being a mess.
Yeah. So we see the fact that they're in the celebrating his birthday and all that, and the fact that Mary Jane is starring in a play.
She's starring in a play, and Peter wants to go and support her. But of course, the responsibility of Spider-Man keeps him from doing that. There's a really fantastic car chase on his way to the play that he has to stop, and in doing so, he's too late to get in. He is stopped at the door by the usher, played by Bruce Campbell.
Great cameo by Bruce. Shoelace. May I help you?
Oh, the tie?
Can I help you?
We're sorry, we can't seat people after the play has begun. Ruins the illusion.
Yeah. But she told me to show up, but not to show up late.
Great lines. Terrific.
I wish Bruce Campbell had more roles after the Raimi films he did.
Yeah,
he does have a leading man look to him.
That's the enigma of Bruce Campbell. He is such a leading man, so charismatic, such a great actor. But the only person who would give him stuff is is Sam Raimi. But it's unfortunate. But we still love you, Bruce Campbell.
And so yeah, we see him start to lose his Spidey powers around this time as well. Right?
Yeah, no, it's very clear that from all the stress in his life, from not being able to do his jobs, school, the emotional weight of keeping a secret from Mary Jane and not being able to tell her how he feels and his secret of being Spider-Man, it starts to mentally weigh on him to the point where he can't use his spider powers. They just don't work anymore, and they just start to slowly erode from him. And that leads to there's a great scene where he's trying to swing after missing her play. He can't swing, and he takes an elevator down from the roof of a building, and it's just an uncomfortable elevator scene with a random guy. He's just like, it's a nice Spidey suit. It looks uncomfortable. It gets a little itchy. Rides up in the crotch a bit, too.
Yeah.
Just silence.
Yeah. I think in Spider-Man 2.1, they had more lines of dialogue between the two people.
I distinctly remember that scene going on for longer, but that's just one of the funniest scenes ever put to screen. I love it so much. And around this time,
the thing that we mentioned about this film is that obviously there are great performances.
Oh, yeah.
But even I think Alfred Molina...
Oh my
as
God.
Doc Ock, I thought he was great.
Alfred Molina,
and he gives a side of humanity to him.
Yeah, no, Doc Ock is a much more tragic sort of villain compared to Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. He's much more it's another mad scientist, science project gone wrong, but he has good intentions behind it. And during the scene where he's trying to take control of the fusion reactor he's building, his wife dies. It's a complete disaster, and he's left mentally kind of scarred from that. The inhibitor chip on his neck that keeps the tentacles from the AI in them from taking over his mind. They take control, and they kind of just fuel his shattered psyche and his ego. And he kind of goes down this dark path where he becomes a person that he doesn't even recognize.
And before we continue with the film, I do want to say, great appearances by Asif Manvi. He was the guy that was the manager for Joe's Pizza.
Oh yeah, Mr. Aziz.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Joe's 29-minute delivery guarantee. It's a promise, young man. Great appearance by him and Donnell Rawlings. When he sees Spider-Man taking that guy's pizza, he's like,
God.
"Whoa! He stole that guy's pizza!"
He stole that guy's pizza.
Yeah, so
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the greatest lines in movie history: "Pizza time."
oh yeah, pizza time. Yeah, there's another line by Harry Osborn that I think is up there on par with that line. But yeah, one of the reasons as to why I liked Otto Octavius in this film is because he's just a guy that is so likable in the beginning of the film, and even like as him as a villain, like you side with him, you understand like, oh, this was his life's work, this is what he dedicated his time and energy to, and this is the reason as to why his wife is no longer living.
Yeah,
you know, that has to eat away at you. And I think that his sort of villain arc I truly love. And I don't know if you watched Darkman.
I have seen Darkman, yeah,
but the arc of Liam Neeson's character is basically like the inverse of Otto Octavius' character. Like the hero arc of Liam Neeson, where, you know, a science experiment, or no, it's not. Well, his thing gets burned down. His laboratory gets burned down, and he takes refuge in a abandoned site, and, you know, tinkers with, you know, some, you know, devices to, you know, get back at those people that wronged him. That's this character.
That's this,
but in the hero version of it.
Yeah, no, the inverse being that by the end of the movie, Octavius, he is trying to regain control of his humanity, and in Darkman completely gives up like the humanity that he had to fully embody this monster that he has become. So those are wonderful parallels.
Yeah. And we see I want to get to the presentation scene of the power of the sun
his,
and the
fusion. Yeah.
Because he starts off the presentation by giving a really corny joke.
Oh my god, I love
where he says, "Has anyone lost a roll of $20 bills in a rubber band? Because we found the rubber band." Which is such a street joke. It's not even
such a street joke, but like it's part of like what endears us to Otto Octavius is that he, especially because he and Peter Parker are both very similar people. Dr. Octavius is who Peter could become if he didn't have to be Spider-Man. This very successful scientist with like a great life and just like so much ambition. But then we see during this presentation where that unchecked ambition and like that ego kind of sends Octavius.
That's actually a very good point right there. Like that, Otto Octavius is everything that Peter Parker aspires to be.
Yeah.
That's I like that. Well, we'll put that in the bottom. Yeah, good point right there. So we see the science experiment gone wrong.
Yeah.
His wife dies as a result of it. Peter, Spider-Man, saves Harry Osborn, and there's a good scene between the two where he's like, this doesn't change anything.
Yeah, no, because by this point, Harry is now like completely obsessed with finding Spider-Man and getting his revenge because he's still convinced that Spider-Man is responsible for the death of Norman Osborn.
There's this great line by Harry Osborn in this film where, like, when all the people that survived the accident exit the building,
I know exactly.
He says, "I'm ruined. I have nothing left except Spider-Man." And then someone comes to him and he's like, "He saved your life, sir. He humiliated me by touching me."
Ruined. I have nothing left except Spider-Man.
He saved your life, sir.
He humiliated me by touching me.
And then just to punctuate that, just like throws on sunglasses.
Dude, honestly,
God.
James Franco's delivery of comedic delivery is just on point. Bring back James Franco, but only in comedic movies, okay?
Yeah.
James Franco, if you're listening, because you have no work right now, but
you got free time.
Yeah, you got free time. Please join the pod. Get on the pod, James Franco. I don't know if you want to come as yourself, because if you do, it'll be so many podcast downloads. But if you want to come in as Tommy Wiseau, we love to do it.
Listen, man, we'll take anyone.
Yeah, you're tearing me apart. Yeah. I don't know why I said that, but but anyways, so we see Otto Octavius go into that room, which I think is probably one of the best scenes in this film, where he goes into the hospital room where they're trying to work
hospital scene. Oh my god! Like, talk about this movie is filled with iconic scenes and moments. This is one of those. One of the best comic book movie scenes of all time. It's again Sam Raimi just like getting that itch, and he's just like, I want to make something absolutely terrifying for this PG-13 movie. There's no music, there's no blood seen on the screen at all, and yet it is bone chilling.
I mean, one of my favorite shots in this scene was this nurse whose nails were just scratching.
Yes,
and that still haunts me to this day.
The sound of her nails on the ground, just like digging into it as she's dragged away by the tentacles, is amazing. The tentacles just slaughter every doctor in the room. One guy has a knife, just like grabs him, sticks him into an electrical socket. He's electrocuted. There's such a wonderful Evil Dead homage where one of the doctors sees like a little chainsaw and does the classic like Sam Raimi zoom from his eyes to the chainsaw. He's trying to cut one of the tentacles in half. And one thing I want to say is I love those tentacles.
Yeah, I mean,
they're so cool.
They're great, and I think in a lot of ways this scene really showcases the sound design of those tentacles.
Oh yeah,
because they sound very visceral. They sound very, again, bone chilling.
Yeah, no,
the sound design is so great.
They sound sharp. Is the noises that they make? They make like these tiny, like audible, like mini screeches, as if they're like when they like speak to Octavius.
It's like Jurassic Park in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they're basically like 4 little raptors on Alfred Molina's back.
Yeah. And again, that scene is just amazing. No music was added to that scene. I think we mentioned I made it a point last episode to mention that a lot, but no music was played. It's very dark, and yeah, for a PG-13 film, superhero film that's designed to market to children.
Yeah, no,
this scene, and you see that a lot in Spider-Man 3 as well, where there's a lot of jump scares in Spider-Man 3 as well.
Yeah,
in the final scene, in the final sequences of Venom and Spider-Man. But yeah, overall that was, and I think by the end of the Act 1, you see the introduction of Doc Ock.
Yeah, no,
as the villain,
finally, kind of like accepting that without his wife, and now he has these tentacles on his back, kind of like feeding into this madness. He's kind of accepted. He's like, I must finish my life's work. I need to finish this fusion reactor.
All right. So heading into Act 2, some notable things that happen in this part. Doc Ock steals money from the bank.
Yes.
Peter Parker gives up on Spidey. MJ plans to get married. The dissolving of Harry Pete's friendship at the planetarium scene. So we can just, his dream sequence with Uncle Ben, awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So yeah, raindrops keep falling on my head.
A wonderful montage.
Yeah, Harry makes a deal with Doc Ock to bring Peter Parker to him for tritium, and I kind of view like the end of Act 2 of Aunt May sort of suggesting to Peter Parker that she knows he's Spider-Man. I think that's sort of
I picked up on that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, there's a lot to unpack here, because I think this is like the point in the film where I think this is where Spider-Man 1 kind of lacked, which was a really good middle part of the film.
Yeah, a good sense of kind of build up for these sequences and story beats. Do we want to start at the bank robbery?
Yeah,
would that be a good place?
Sure. I mean, that was a great fight scene. I know there's a lot of thought and effort put in, and a lot of like attention focused on that train sequence.
Oh yeah,
but I even think the bank scene was really good. I mean, we dealt with the pre-hair transplant Joel McHale.
I remember seeing Joel McHale. I'm just like, wow, he's just kind of a dick in everything he's in, isn't he?
He only knows how to play himself. Even at the VGX Awards with Jeff Keighley. Remember that time when he hosted the VGX Awards?
I don't.
Oh, dude, he was just going in on Jeff Keighley, dude. It was crazy. I'll leave a little bit of montage of times he went after Jeff Keighley while hosting the VGX Awards.
Wrap it up. All right. Now you voted for it, and dudes are. Oh, never mind. Back to you, Joel. Yeah. Potatoes.
Holy crap! It's an open bar out there.
With your feedback in mind, we've been reading a lot of feedback from the fans online about what what they'd like us to change, and we definitely want to make sure that people love the game.
What's great about Twitter is that they don't criticize anything. Name one game that you're going to play, other than all of them, and you like them all.
No, they all.
Have you ever not liked the game? Have you ever gone on record of saying I don't like this game?
Yes, there've been some games that have not been very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was pre-hair transplant, pre-community, pre-Jeff Winger, Joel McHale.
Yeah, no, and the bank scene, it's Peter Parker, Aunt May, they're gonna go and get a loan from the bank, but they don't have the money required. There's this great little back and forth with Aunt May. It's just like, well, at least we get the free toaster. And he's like, actually, that's only with a deposit of $300. Sorry. But then Doc Ock attacks. He's in a trench coat and like a fedora with sunglasses.
He's somewhere in front of the safe. And
He's
like,
right
why is there no one
in front of a massive safe filled with money bags filled with gold coins. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And he rips it off, attacks the security guard. Spider-Man comes in. It's a great introduction to like their new rivalry. He takes Aunt May hostage and he's climbing up the side of a wall. Alfred Molina has such great delivery of one line where he's like gonna give Aunt May back to Spider-Man, drops her and he's like, Butterfingers.
Oh yeah, that was good.
I want an entire masterclass session on his delivery of the line, Butterfingers.
One of the parts in the sequence that I really loved as well was when like the tentacles start to hit other buildings.
Yeah.
And you see this shot in which this like lady screams.
Yeah.
She gets in the middle of the frame, looks right dead into the camera, into the barrel of the camera, and just starts screaming.
Starts screaming directly into the camera as the tentacles are busting through the walls.
I loved it. That was like
So
my favorite
great.
shot, and that's like one of my favorite because the framing of it all was great. But yeah, that was I thought was that was really good.
Yeah.
I like that part
It's
a
a
lot.
great introduction. He saves Aunt May. It's funny when he finally drops her off safely and he swings away. There's just hordes of women coming out, just like, Spider-Man, take me with you! Take me with you, Spider-Man!
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I like that away. I like that scene a lot.
One thing I want to point out, it probably happened early on in the first act, but we're introduced to a new character in Peter's life, and I didn't want to miss mentioning him, Mr. Ditkovich, his landlord.
Oh yeah. How do we forget about? The guy who's portrayed as like your typical New York landlord.
Yeah, it's
Rent.
Their first interaction, he's like, "Oh, hi, Mr. Ditkovich." He's like, "Hi, what is hi? Can I spend it?"
Yeah.
He's like weird European accent, constantly taking money from Peter. Peter only has $20. He's like, "This is your rent money for the month."
But I do feel like in Spider-Man 3, and we'll talk about Spider-Man 3 a little bit, maybe next week. But in Spider-Man 3, you sort of see the human side of Mr. Ditkovich because
he gets very good development.
Yeah, because I think when Peter snaps at Ditkovich saying you'll get your rent money when you fix this damn door, you sort of see like a more genuine emotional side of him.
Yeah.
When he says that, so he's great. He's a great like sort of comic relief character. But I do think in a lot of ways this film was really good at showing him as like the comedic side of it.
In introducing him, I have eyes like a cat and a face like a rodent.
So we see the Doc Ock Spidey scene end, right?
Yeah.
And how does it end again?
It ends. Doc Ock gets away with the money because Peter Parker has to save Aunt May from falling.
Oh, okay.
That's all I remember. And then he swings away, and all the women are like, "Spider-Man, please."
Yeah.
That's how I remember that ending.
Yeah. And also, what I really liked is like following the scene. I think it was the planetarium scene.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Literally, like I feel like this scene in particular was like showing Peter at his at the lowest moment in the entire film.
Yeah, no, it's almost like the universe is just absolutely beating Peter down.
Can't even get food, can't even get water.
Yeah, every like a plate with hors d'oeuvres that goes by, someone takes the last one before he can grab it. He tries to go for a drink, gets the cup, but it's completely empty. He's there taking pictures for the Daily Bugle. He sees that it's all for J. Jonah Jameson's son, an astronaut. It's all for his benefit, and he sees that Mary Jane is with him, and that's her new boyfriend.
Yeah, I love this part because when he finds out that Mary Jane is marrying John Jameson, he has to be Peter Parker and turns into the camera guy because J. Jonah Jameson's like, Parker, wake up, shoot the picture.
Parker, wake up! Wake up! Shoot the picture!
you know?
Yeah, it's such a perfect encapsulation of what Peter is going through, just having to like push his feelings and like problems like deep down, and just having to like work like either his job or be Spider-Man. He is pushing aside like the things Peter Parker wants to make everyone else around him happy, and it also leads into the fight with him and Harry Osborn.
Oh yeah, I mean that fight in and of itself was amazing. I mean it's not a fight.
It's not a fight, but it's like emotional because Harry's drinking and he's just like coming at Peter. He's like, "You're friends with Spider-Man. You take pictures of Spider-Man. He killed my father. You care more about Spider-Man than your best friend." He like slaps him twice in the face. It's very, and it's all just weighing on Peter. Just like you just see him just become so ragged from this entire night and experience.
He becomes detached.
Yeah, no, you can see him just emotionally just like leaving his body and mind, just like because he does not want to be there.
Yeah. And from that scene, we see that dream sequence between Uncle Ben and Peter.
That's a fantastic dream sequence where he's trying to tell Uncle Ben like he doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. He doesn't want the responsibility. And what I liked about that scene is that it kind of put into perspective like why he's been Spider-Man for so long, like end of the first movie to like where we are in this movie. It comes across as though he hasn't been Spider-Man because it's the right thing to do. It's more like out of like guilt, like this obligation. He's just been carrying around the guilt of Uncle Ben's death this entire time, and he's only been Spider-Man because he just feels so guilty. He feels so responsible that like that's why he's been putting up with all of this.
I think around this time before the dream sequence, there was like a very good transition scene from him in the alley to him in his room where he sees the Daily Bugle, and it's like some negative Spider-Man.
It's like
so he
Mass
throws
Menace.
it. Mass Menace. So he throws the newspaper away, and then it's a transition shot. So we see him in his bedroom doing the same thing. I like that.
No, this movie's filled with fantastic shots and transitions because that's just Sam Raimi's so good at this visual language.
And again, as soon as we see, he says Spider-Man no more.
Oh, such a great line. Yeah.
We see a straight to comic book shot of him walking away with his Spider-Man clothes in a trash bin.
Yeah, no, it's great, and that leads directly into the raindrops are falling.
Keep falling. Yeah.
The montage of Peter Parker's new life just being Peter Parker, and he's just very content to just be like another New York citizen. He's able to go to his classes. He's able to do his job.
Eat a hot dog while he watches the cops chase over a criminal.
Chase criminals. He's like, it's not his problem.
Great scene. And I think in a lot of, there's some criticism towards that scene by some idiots online where they're like, oh, it's not enough. There's not enough Spider-Man in this movie. There's not enough Spider-Man. Why is there so many scenes with Peter Parker? I didn't buy a ticket to see Peter Parker. I saw a ticket to see Spider-Man. It's like you
goes right over people's heads.
Yeah, people are dumb. But yeah, that scene is great. I think the final shot of him is just him cheekily smiling in the camera.
It's a freeze frame.
It's just like a great shot. I love that scene a lot. That's the best montage / scene in the entire trilogy.
It's so good.
Is that in and of itself. But we don't spend a lot of time the movie, I think, doesn't spend a lot of time on Peter Parker just being Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I understand. But I think after this scene, was this also the burning building scene?
I think so. After this scene, the Spider-Man no more.
Oh, this was before the burning building scene.
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson getting into the offices of the Daily Bugle, standing on top of the desk, dressed up as Spider-Man.
This is Spider-Man 2.1. This is a scene,
is
right?
it? Yeah.
Because when I watched it, just like I was watching it on my TV on like Disney Plus, I didn't get this scene.
Okay.
And I was thinking about it the entire time, just like where does it come up? It's probably 2.1.
2.1. Yeah, I mean that scene in of itself was great. I love that.
It's just like some random guy brings him the Spider-Man suit from the trash. He's like, I deserve a reward for this, and he's like, get this man $50 and a bar of soap.
But yeah,
Yeah.
But I think shortly after this, it's the burning building scene.
Yeah, no, we get Peter Parker, like, the happy montage of, like, his life devoid of Spider-Man, and it's going pretty good, but it slowly starts to turn where now we see, like, a world without Spider-Man. It starts with, like, he just sees someone getting mugged in an alley, and he doesn't do anything to stop it. He just watches as an onlooker, and then there is a burning building that he sees, and I think it kind of harkens back to the burning building from Spider-Man 1, where he goes in as Spider-Man to save people, but has a confrontation with the Goblin. But now he's just Peter Parker. He doesn't have his powers, and yet he sees that there's a burning building. He knows there's a child trapped inside, and he decides, just like, powers or not, he's gonna go in there and do his best to help. And that's another scene in this movie that just I absolutely love, because something that I find missing so much from the modern superhero movies is the superheroes being good people and, like, saving civilians.
Oh yeah.
I don't think
it's a lost art.
It doesn't happen anymore. Like, superhero, you think they'd go about being, like, good people, good morally upright people, and, like, saving lives, but, like, it's all dealing with, like, the big space threat. The planet's gonna blow up. Whatever. But, like, I like this smaller thing where it's like Peter Parker, even at his lowest with no powers, he's still like, someone has to do something, and I have to be that person to help and do my best. And he runs straight into a burning building. It's a claustrophobic scene. Yeah. It's another just terrifying nightmare. The building's crumbling. He has, like, a small child, like, that he's cradling. He's trying to jump over, like, gaps, but doesn't have his powers, and so it's hard to do.
I've seen a few reviews online talking about the scene, and they say that, you can just cut the scene entirely from the movie.
Oh my god, no, absolutely not. You can't. You cannot at all cut this. It's so important for his journey, realizing that, like, great power comes great responsibility. Even without the great power he once had as Spider-Man, he still has an obligation he feels to help when no one else can, powers or no powers. And that scene is, like, it's capitalized at the end, where he's able to save this one child, but the firemen come out and they're just like, there was one person trapped on the 4th floor, we couldn't get to them and they died. And just, it holds on his face where he's like, if I were Spider-Man, I could have saved everyone. It's so important for his journey of realizing why Spider-Man is such a necessity.
Yes, absolutely. That scene is very important, and I never understood the criticism with that scene. I mean, that sounds so dumb, idiotic.
You remove a lot of Peter's agency. Like, you see why he gives up Spider-Man, and that's a scene that's important to why he feels he should take on the mantle again, because he has a conversation with Aunt May later where she's like...
I mean, yeah, and that's what we're going to get into right now, which I think that scene alone was, like, so... I think that's the best. I mean, I know I mentioned several times in this podcast review that this scene in particular was the best part in the entire trilogy. Yeah. This is up there.
Yeah, that's how good this movie is. Every scene is the best scene.
Yeah, every scene is the best scene. But where Aunt May, when she's moving stuff out of her home, and she has this very heartfelt speech to Peter where she's like, everyone needs a hero.
Yeah.
And she was sort of heavily implying that I know you're Spider-Man, because she's not dumb. She knows that he lives a double life.
Yeah, no. And this, I think we should also refer to the scene that happens before this where Peter has the courage to tell Aunt May where he was the night of Uncle Ben's death, and kind of like the actual circumstances, where he admits to her that he was the one who allowed the Uncle Ben's killer to go free, and he's kind of responsible for his death. And that's a fantastic scene, because she is just, you just see all the emotions on her face taking in this information, and she kind of like slowly backs away from him while they're talking and just goes upstairs and just like to
that
be
prolonged shot of her going upstairs, I thought that really added to the emotional weight of that scene.
Yeah, and then we finally see them kind of come back together, where you can tell she's had time to process, and she's like, "You're my nephew. You're basically like my son, and like I love you because you're a good person, and like, hey, the world needs Spider-Man," and like she's heavily implying that like she knows like that he is Spider-Man.
Yeah. There was one part in Spider-Man 3, which obviously we'll review next week. So I know we'll review it next week. But there's this one part in Spider-Man 3 where I think Aunt May was asking Peter, why did he kill Flint Marko? Or why did Spider-Man kill Flint Marko? And Peter Parker was like, he and he had to switch to he. So obviously, like, the fact that they didn't mention or bring up that Aunt May didn't know that he was Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3. I really wish there was a scene in which Aunt May could tell him,
Like, I know.
yeah,
Like, I'm very
that there
aware
would be
of
some
it.
closure to it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't in Spider-Man 3, unfortunately. But I think I think that's like the end of Act 2, essentially.
About there, yeah.
So, and then we get into Act 3. There's some important things that happen in Act 3. The Peter MJ emotional cafe scene, the train fight sequence, Harry unmasking Peter, final fight scene of Doc Ock while he sacrifices himself to save NYC, MJ finding out Peter's Spidey, Harry transforms as Goblin, MJ ditches her wedding. That's about
I love that scene. I love that scene.
That was good. So there was this one scene in particular that I didn't mention in the beginning of Act 3, in which Peter, there was like the slow motion shot of Peter getting his powers back, and he starts running on rooftops.
Oh my god.
I love that slow mo
It's
of him running with his glasses. It's so good.
It's he's screaming just as he's in the air, "I'm back! I'm back!" He loses momentum, plummets, hits like 3 cars on the way down. He's like, "My back! My back!" I feel like it should not be understated, like all the Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi ones, how goddamn funny they are.
It's funny.
They're so hilarious, whether it's intentional. I believe it is all intentional. He's trying to make you laugh, or unintentional, but they're just so goddamn funny, and that's why they've been memed to death.
Yeah, and then MJ obviously has her own like issues with her fiance, and that leads into the cafe scene where she wants to prove that, you know, she knows or has an inkling of Peter, and if she knows who Peter is in her own past romantic life through the kiss. And that doesn't happen because a car goes through.
Doc Ock has shown up because
he wants to get tritium from Harry Osborn.
And Harry Osborn's thing is like, I'll give you the tritium if you get me Spider-Man, and the only way to find Spider-Man is through Peter Parker. Throws the car through the window, kidnaps Mary Jane. He's like, "Tell Spider-Man to meet me at the West Tower at 3 o'clock. Buries Peter under rubble, and that's the moment where he snaps back into being Spider-Man, because now Mary Jane is in trouble. He just rises from the rubble, gets his suit on, and he's gonna go fight Doc Ock.
And that, again, is there anything that we can really add to the train fight sequence that hasn't already been said before?
Let me see my notes, but again, that is just one of those perfect, absolutely perfect, just like fight scenes in any movie. The momentum, the weight of it, the way Doc Ock just... I can't gush enough about how much I love Doc Ock. I feel like I almost kind of like him a bit more than Green Goblin. Can I say that? Would that be slander?
No, I mean, there's a reason as to why this film is loved more than the first one because the villain is way more fleshed out, and you sort of see the human, heartfelt side in Otto Octavius.
Spider-Man and Doc Ock are just like such perfect characters to play off each other. Just even the way they fight is so similar. The way they're both like climbing on walls, flipping around, grappling each other. It's fantastic. That train fight, the big part of it is Peter being unmasked in the middle of it and still having to save this train of people.
Yeah. Even when the conductor was being a dick to Peter when he was trying to save him.
Yeah. Any more bright ideas?
Yeah. I have a couple. I have a few.
And that scene is like, it's capped with the people on the train kind of bringing him back on board. And that scene is kind of like when all the people on the train like kind of like protect Peter from Doc.
But before, I do want to say when Peter is unmasked and when they're all looking at him, like a person says, he's just a kid and older than my son.
Yeah.
I like that line.
It's a great line to show like, and yeah, no, that scene feels like, because the entire movie, like, the world has just kind of been beating Peter Parker down. But I feel like this is the moment of the film where it's like, he's given, like, not Spider-Man, but Peter is given the respect that he has deserved. Like, people are actually seeing the man under the mask, and they're all just in awe of him. And so it's like, it's almost like the city of New York being like, we're sorry for treating you so poorly, Peter Parker.
And we see Doc Ock coming back, and we see all the New Yorkers get in front of Peter.
Yeah, it's like, if you want him, you gotta go through me.
And guess who said that?
He's from The Sopranos, right?
Joey Diaz.
Oh, it's Joey Diaz.
Yeah, Joey Diaz said it.
You want to get to him, you got to go through me.
And me.
Me too.
Very well.
Thank you.
Another comedian cameo in this film, you know? So yeah, that happens, and he's like, okay, and then he just
parts the Red Sea with his tentacles.
But again, a great transition shot was used in this, where like you see them go through the Spider-Man logo into the next scene. I love that part as well. Another great transition shot from the Spider-Man logo to Osborn Manor, where, you know, Harry unmasks him.
Harry unmasks Peter. He has Spider-Man right where he wants him. He grabs a like an old-timey looking dagger. He's gonna stab Spider-Man. He's like, before I kill you, I want to look you in the eyes as you die. Removes the mask. And yeah, what we were saying earlier about James Franco's performance, this is a great scene for him, because like all the emotion going through him right now, the anger, the confusion, like he's like completely like stunted by this discovery that his best friend may have been the one to murder his own father. And like Peter's trying to rationalize with him. He's like, Doc Ock has Mary Jane. Like, I need to find him. I need to stop his experiment. And just like the entire time, Harry Osborn has this stunned look. He's like, it's you killed my father? Peter has to be like, there's more important things going on right now.
Yeah. Again, I think James Franco and Harry, I think he did a great job. I mean, I should speak into the microphone. Dummy, Ajay, you're such a dummy. Yeah, I think he did a great job, and I think this scene in particular really stood out as that. So then we see Peter Parker. We see the back and forth between Mary Jane and Doc Ock.
Yeah.
And Peter Parker, Spider-Man comes in.
They have a fight. They have a fight trying to shut down the reactor. Doc Ock is electrocuted. That kind of brings him back to his senses momentarily, where Peter kind of repeats a line back to him.
Peter gets unmasked in this.
Oh yeah, he gets unmasked, shows that he's been Spider-Man the whole time. Alfred Molina has this lovely line where he's like, Peter Parker, brilliant but lazy. That's a great line. Everything out of Alfred Molina's mouth is fantastic in this movie. Peter tells him back that, like, you once told me that intelligence is a privilege used for the good of mankind. Kind of brings him back from the depths Doc Ock regains control of his mind, of the arms on his back, and his plan is to sink the fusion into the sea to drown it, because he will not die a monster. During this, Mary Jane discovers Peter is Spider-Man. The interaction they have when he like stops the building from crushing her.
Oh yeah, this is very heavy.
He's just straining, but he's just like, "Hi, this is very heavy." Such a great Peter Parker line.
Yeah, and he saves MJ.
He saves MJ.
We see Doc Ock going into the sea. Great final shot of Otto Octavius.
Of Otto Octavius regaining control, redeeming himself.
Yeah.
And then, how's this movie end?
How does this movie end?
How does this movie end? Oh, so MJ has a wedding. She was going to get married.
Yeah.
but she doesn't show up to the altar, leaves J. Jonah Jameson's son at the altar. J. Jonah Jameson has a great line. He's like, "Call Deborah. Tell her not to open the caviar."
I love that line a lot. That line's great.
And then like the wedding music plays as she's running
through Washington Square Park.
Yeah, in her wedding dress to go be with Peter.
Oh yeah, and that scene of Peter, just sitting on his bed, and then we just see a pan over shot to Mary Jane waiting there at his door.
Yeah,
very beautiful shot.
Wonderful shot. She's like. Says like a classic Spider-Man line, "Go get him, Tiger."
Yeah.
It's like he goes off to be Spider-Man.
I don't think she was that jubilant about it.
No, not that jubilant, but like,
"Go get him, Tiger."
But like the sentiment is there. He swings off, and the final shot of the movie is her kinda looking out. It reminds me of the ending of The Graduate, where like she's happy, but like
that's a great comparison.
Yeah, but like there's this little bit of uncertainty because like she's abandoned her wedding to be with the man she does love, but there is that little inkling of uncertainty because like he is Spider-Man. Like there's uncertainty in this relationship, and kind of the final shot and the opening shot, they're basically the same because it opens on a shot of Mary Jane on a billboard looking down at Peter, and it kind of ends the same way, ends with Mary Jane looking off at Peter and Spider-Man.
And I think by that point it's like the end of the film, essentially.
That's basically the end of the film. We do have a scene of Harry Osborn. He's kind of like, he kind of cracks mentally. He sees the image of Willem Dafoe in the mirror, and he's like, "You have to avenge me. Avenge me!" Breaks the mirror, and he finds, all of Green Goblin's equipment. He's going to become the new Little Goblin Jr. Gonna cry.
Yeah, and I think by that point it's the end of the film, right?
That's the end of the movie.
And then we cut to credits, dashboard confessionals, vindicated plays. Overall, this is one of the best superhero films. In my opinion, it's the best superhero film of all time.
Yeah, it's a classic.
It's a classic.
Bonafide.
And I think a lot of the reason as to why it's a classic is because if you're a non-superhero film fan, you can still watch this film.
Yeah.
Because this film is not really, even though it deals with a superhero, a lot of the focus is on Peter Parker.
It's about the emotional burden of being a superhero and kind of how it affects his life and his relationships. It's all about the negatives of being a superhero while also being about like why we love this superhero in particular, because he is willing to always do the right thing even if it's at the cost of his own kind of happiness.
Yeah, I mean, why do people still care about this film 20 years later? It's because there's a lot of films that like get Academy Awards or win for best film that don't really get noticed. Why is this film still considered one of the best in the genre?
For me, what I thought watching this very early on was that the emotional stakes are always like the highest they can be. There's always the threat of like the villain trying to blow up half of New York, but that is secondary to our characters and their relationships, how they are impacted by the superhero stuff. That's what it's all about. That's what the focus of these movies for Sam Raimi has always been. It's always been about the characters, their relationships, their struggles, their turmoil, it goes back to that quote we were talking about where the villain is just like an obstacle.
He's a physical and mental representation of the obstacles that Peter's currently facing through.
Yeah. And that's what Doc Ock is. That's what even Spider-Man is. Spider-Man for Peter is also a villain in a sense, where that responsibility, that obligation, that guilt he feels takes over so much of his life. And that's why it like gets to a point where like he can't even be Spider-Man because he just has all this stuff just bubbling up inside.
Yeah. And again, it's a great film and we highly suggest it.
Yeah,
you guys watch it.
If you haven't seen this or the first Spider-Man, like, what have you been doing for 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, when I watched this film and the end of it, I'm like, oh my god, what could have been for Spider-Man 3? I mean, we really do like Spider-Man 3. Like, you're talking to two people that do enjoy the film, but there's so many ways that we're looking, and I'm sure you feel this way, where like, if we wrote this film, if we wrote Spider-Man 3, right? If Sam Raimi had writers for Spider-Man 3 instead of him actually just writing the film, what would this film would have become? And if there was no studio interference with Venom, which we'll obviously get into for next week, but when you're watching this film, you're like, oh my god, they had it right there.
There was so much potential. Even like I was thinking, like Dr. Connors, his teacher, like with the missing arm. God, the magic that Sam Raimi could have done with a man turning into a lizard and growing like an extra limb. Ooh, I could see it. It was so sweet, and we had it, but
unfortunately, Avi Arad and Sony had other plans.
No,
they wanted
Sony,
to shoehorn in Venom.
They wanted to make Madam Web more than they wanted to let Sam Raimi make a big Lizard Man movie.
Yeah. Madam Web, obviously the GOAT of superhero films.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking about great movies.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we can talk about our frustrations with Spider-Man 3 next week.
Yeah, that'll be in a conversation.
Man, I just wish they just had Harry Osborn as the main villain, and that's it. I know Sam Raimi wanted Sandman, and I know he was very insistent on having Sandman in the film. But if only Harry Osborn was in that film, and we just got a final fight sequence between Harry Osborn and Peter Parker, with MJ being the damsel in distress and falling off a bridge, with Harry Osborn being like, "I'm gonna do what my father should have done," and then
there's always a villain to make a sadistic choice twice, Peter.
All right. I think that's it for this episode. So, guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys soon. All right. Peace. Bye. Make hentai great again?
Yes, that's what that hat says. That is, in fact, what that hat says.
Did you buy it?
No, I got it from a friend who went to an anime convention.
Hell yeah.
Every time he goes to an anime convention, he brings me back hentai. Secretly, all over this room are hentai books.
Really?
Yeah.
Should we have it in the background?
It's a terrible idea. If you want to get demonetized, yeah.